Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday, September the 10th. We're happy to have you for another edition of the Prime Time program. We are moving on. We've talked enough about the way the Titans screwed up in Denver. It's on to Los Angeles, or really on to the home opener, where they will host the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. There was a great deal of conversation about that today. Brian Callahan, Cam Ward, we were in the locker room talking to players after practice today, and it was a gut punch of a week one. You guys have had gut punch week one results before, most recently last year. But it is appropriate to acknowledge that there was a couple of things that they did better than we expected them to do, and that they have an opportunity to get right against the Rams on Sunday. So what's it going to take? And that is what we're going to talk about tonight. Reasons to be optimistic after that tough loss in Denver. And you'll hear from the head coach about that here in just a second. We'll do a little rising and falling at the end of the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you would like to participate there, where I see you guys starting to filter in the comments section. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. In fact, I'll do that from my Facebook right now. YouTube and Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend to do the same while you're at it. If you want to even text the link to one of your buddies so we can talk Titans and have more people come hang out with us and talk Titans as well. We appreciate your participation. Vols times 8 says, is Buck riding with the Titans for once? No, I wouldn't pick them. No, I'm not going to pick them to win on Sunday. But I do think that they're like, it was in the immediate aftermath of Sunday's game, it was justified the level of reaction that there was, because you have a young team and a number one overall pick at quarterback that are going to need a lot of support if they're to succeed at a reasonably high level. And what they did as a football team, as a roster, was go to Denver and compete at a much higher level than I think anybody expected them to, at least relative to my expectations. I thought they were going to get their asses kicked. What I did not anticipate, what I did not factor in, what I did not account for is the coach being the reason, a huge part of the reason that they lost that football game. And so while it is understandable to say, well, why are you so upset, or why are people so upset about a game that you expected the Titans to lose anyway? Yeah, but context matters here, and they were within 8 points. They were within one score for basically the entirety of the game. In fact, they were leading at certain points, right, against a quality opponent that went to the postseason last year. May have been having a down game, but that's fine. Like, the Titans were in it, and then the coach cost them in a couple of critical moments. The players also screwed up with penalties and things like that. Dan Moore was a ragdoll out there against Nick Bonito. Like, they weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And maybe even if Brian Callahan does the right thing and is on his game as far as challenges or play calling goes, maybe they still don't win the football game. But to talk about the coach being the one that kneecapped them primarily, that was offensive. That was worth reacting to for 2 days. Now we're on to talking about the things that they did well. And I thought Cam Ward held his own. Now, I'm not saying that Cam Ward was perfect. He was far from it. But there are circumstances there where the roster let him down in remarkable ways. Calvin Ridley spoke in the locker room today. He was accountable, to his credit. He didn't speak on Sunday after the game. He wasn't in the locker room to be spoken to. And we were waiting around for 20 minutes on Callahan to show up and then to have the press conference go the way that he did after he was 20 minutes late, or not late, but waiting around for him for 20 minutes while the locker room was emptying out, which did not give us the opportunity to talk to all the players that we would otherwise be able to talk to. So I was a little frustrated by that, and I thought that was not a great look. I think that the more irritating part of the Denver game was that they could have won it. They could have won it. I wouldn't say easily, but they could have won it. And to deprive Cam Ward of that opportunity, to deprive the roster of that opportunity, I thought was particularly egregious. But it's worth acknowledging that special teams was good. Special teams was a plus on Sunday. It's been a long time since I've been able to say that. Hell, they haven't had a return situation or a returner that competent or that effective since Darius Jennings in 2018. It's been a long time. The defense played much better than I expected them to play. There are reasons to look at this and say, yeah, they may have something to build upon there. They may still have limitations, and it's not going to be perfect, but it is better than you expected it to be. And then there's Cam, right? Who you guys, most of you know that I on Tuesdays with the A to Z Sports Instagram handle, I'll answer questions, Titans questions that you guys send me on the Instagram story, and I'll spend a couple hours on Tuesday answering those. One of the questions that I got was, "What about Cam Ward's performance surprised you?" And I was very pleasantly or very happy to say that nothing about it surprised me, because he's just kind of the same dude the whole way through. And that to see it work the way that it does in practice, and work the way that it did in preseason games, and work the way that it did in college at the professional level, with him having not good enough players around him, that's reassuring. It's comforting if you're a Titans fan, I'm sure, because Cam Ward is like on the list of things that cost you the game on Sunday. He's way, way, way down on the list. In fact, he's keeping you in the game more often than not. It's Calvin Ridley drops and Brian Callahan coaching decisions and penalties all over the place. Pre-snap, too many pre-snap penalties all over the place that are keep holding Cam Ward back, that are an anchor around his neck, but he's undeterred by it, right? He came back with the same attitude, same mentality, same guy he's been the whole time. So that I like the idea of him being a positive and it not being a surprise, right? So that's kind of where I am with Cam Ward at this point in time. So just quickly before we start the show, because there was obviously a horrible situation, and two horrible situations today. There was a school shooting in Denver, and then obviously the political activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at a speaking engagement in Utah today. You guys have done a lot of and this is not a political show. Charlie Kirk is a political figure. And fortunately, in the Denver school shooting situation, no lives were lost, though it's another school shooting, right? But you and I together, we have done a lot of these situations where there's a huge news item going on in the world, and I'm here to talk to you about sports, and that's fine. But I would feel remiss if I didn't address it in the same way that we talked about things that happened during COVID, or with the Covenant shooting that was here in Nashville, and all these different things. All that to say that a horrendous circumstance. Nobody should be shot. Nobody should be killed for political opinions. The political atmosphere that we are currently in is hugely divisive, no matter what your perspective is on opinions that Charlie Kirk has, or that I don't know who the version of Charlie Kirk on the left side of the political leaning is. Whatever you're feeling about whichever party these people support or talk about, or the things that they've said. And there's been many things said that a lot of people wouldn't agree with. And I think that's okay to acknowledge, or that would be beyond just disagreeable, but frankly distasteful in a lot of situations. That's not a reason, that's not cause for a person to lose their life. So I wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge that, and that it is a horrible situation. And then obviously we don't condone anything like that. And it breaks my heart that we're having those kind of conversations in this country. So I would, I'll leave it at that. And I don't want to, get into an ongoing conversation about that, because obviously you guys are here to talk about the Titans, but it would be ignorant for me to sit here and not talk about something that's, horrible for our country across the board, and just to sit here and act like nothing happened. So I thought that would be a worse situation than not acknowledging it, and obviously just expressing sadness for all of us across the board. That's the kind of atmosphere that we're in. But anyway, let's keep it moving. All right, so sports. That's no graceful way for me to do it, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it right now. So anyway, with the kind of things that we are going to talk about tonight, there's one thing in particular that stands out, and this is going to be your Two Rivers 4 take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. In the comments section, if you would like to participate there. As you paid attention, maybe some of you didn't see the press conference today from Brian Callahan, but there are a handful of different subjects that were broached on this. What is, and Robert, you'll I'm sorry, I didn't see the email. If you could give me the prompt specifically on that, or just tweet it, and I'll be able to read it from there. But the reason for optimism around the Titans. What's your biggest reason for optimism around the Titans right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch? That is your Two Rivers Ford take in the comment section. No, it's hard to be optimistic coming off of the loss, but again, it's one result out of 17 that they'll play. So, how do you feel about where this current team is, and what reasons do you have to look at it and say, all right, it felt bad. The coach is he's put himself in a suspect type of situation, but where are the things that can be built upon? On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, it's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Online at tworiversford.com for over 4 decades. Here to help you. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet. They've gone above and beyond for over 4 decades. As I mentioned, I'm a customer myself. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service on offer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online, tworiversford.com. Fast, easy, and more fun. That's how they make the car buying process for you, the car dealer at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet for more details. All right. So what is your biggest reason to be optimistic about the Titans, despite the way that they let themselves down, and they did collectively let themselves down in week 1? Johnny on Facebook Live says, Cam and the defense played better. Dixie says Pollard is not a bell cow. He did his best to compliment Zeke. That's, I guess, not a conversation or a reason for optimism, but just a comment that happened to come across as I was reading. Ocho says Titans will build through the draft. All the rookies made an impact. Yeah, the rookies. I was talking to one of the members of your front office on the sideline on Sunday, and what I was told was, yeah, all these dudes are going to play. Like Chim and Alec Iamaner and Gunnar Helm, they're all going to play. We're gonna get our snaps out of Marcus Harris. He's going to play. He probably ended up playing more than they expected him to play. But like all the young dudes across the board are going to play. They have to find ways to make an impact right there, and they did. Right, DK had the big return. Iamaner, I think, is somebody who maybe not in the box score realized that level of impact, but I think that there are plays there to be made. And I think Alec Iamaner is somebody who they are smart to start. I think that Gunnar Helm is going to end up being the best tight end on this roster by year's end. And I think that there's a lot of different pieces and parts there that will help support Cam Ward as he moves forward. So that is a reason for optimism. The draft class showed up on Sunday, and that's not something that you could say about previous draft classes. I mean, hell, you got more out of Chimere DK on Sunday than you did at any point out of Isaiah Wilson, for example. Hell, I mean, I know that Traylon Burks had almost 700 receiving yards. He's 1 yard short, but I mean, there's reason to believe that you could get more out of Chimere DK and Alec Iamaner than Traylon Burks ever reasonably could have produced for the Tennessee Titans, which is kind of crazy. Femi got in the backfield, says Ocho, citing another positive. Reasons for positives. Puka says Cam showed a lot of maturity and talent. And all those things, beyond the loss and beyond the coach and the malpractice that was, and we've talked about that at great length. Brian Callahan was asked today, and I believe this was by Gentry Estes, who's the columnist at the Tennessean. Gentry Estes asked him, what makes it feel like, or is there a feeling of, oh no, here we go again? Because that's basically what last year was. And Brian Callahan answered that question this way.
Different enough to where you don't see that happening.
Yeah, this team is very different from that. I understand where you're coming from. I know that feeling. But I didn't feel that at all from our football team in that game. I was frustrated at just the things that we could have done to win the game, and a game that I felt like we had a very good chance to win. To not come out of that playing better than we did in all 3 phases, I think, was what was disappointing. Disappointed in myself, obviously, on top of it. So I love the makeup of our football team. I really do. I think they have the right mentality. They understand that we always are going to have a chance. They play really hard. They play with great effort. Those things are going to help us along the way, and we're going to win more football games. But that feeling that can creep in sometimes. I don't feel it from our guys. I think we've got really good leadership. The leadership has grown quite a bit, I think, in a year's time, and the new faces we've added and the young players and their demeanor and makeup gives me a ton of confidence that that's not something that we have to worry about. And I really do. I mean, I know it's only 1 week and all that, but I really do like the makeup of our football team and where they stand. It's a night and day difference in totality from a year ago.
And a huge part of that's Brian Callahan speaking about why this year's team is not going to spiral, or why he doesn't believe they will spiral the way that last year's team did. And I think that's, I think that's tangible I think that's tangible in the idea that Cam Ward is not Will Levis. Like, that's a start. That is enough to completely change the level of belief in a locker room, because Cam Ward is not going to be rattled and has the same demeanor week in and week out. And he's a bit unhinged, or a bit of a head case in a different way than Will Levis was, where Will Levis is a head case is, excuse me, far as the way that one mistake would snowball no matter what. Like, he would spiral no matter what. When adversity hit, Will Levis was not cut out to handle it. And that's unfortunate. Cam Ward is famous for being thoroughly unbothered in situations. And he's seen a lot of different situations as a zero-star recruit, to Incarnate Word, to Wazoo, to Miami, to now number 1 overall pick in the draft, to a bad football team that he's having to manage and be one of the primary voices of leadership on as a 20, what is Cam? Is he 21? Is he 22? He might be 22. 22-year-old in a locker room that has some young players, but also has plenty of grown-ass men with families in it, right? Like, he has a trickle-down effect based on who he is specifically. I think that is tangible. That is noticeable. Now, will it last? I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, we can only go off precedent with Cam Ward. There's not a sufficient body of work here to understand whether he'll be the exact same player he was in the pros as he was in college. And who he was in college was somebody whose heart rate does not get over 60 at any given point, it seems. He's going to be tested a lot this year, and he was tested on Sunday, and I thought he handled that remarkably well. But there are 16 more of these tests coming his way, and we'll see how he's able to manage it, because that will be something to document the whole way through. That's going to be something that we have to learn about Cam Ward this year. Is he up to the challenge? And there's reason to believe that he is. Andrew Martin says the team might be different, but he is the same. That's the problem. Talking about Brian Callahan. Yeah, I struggle with this, because I was talking about this today. Brian Callahan, to me, is a difficult figure to understand, because I know him to be a smart football mind. But I do not know that he is cut out for the job of CEO of a football team. I think that job is so much more than X's and O's, and that he does have some advantages, sure. But Andrew, we were talking about this the other day with on the radio show. Jason Fitz, my buddy, who does national stuff for Yahoo, and he does the national Fox Sports radio show with me on Saturdays, which I'm not doing this week because I'm going to Tennessee, Georgia. But I am going to call in at some point for those of you who listen to the Fox Sports radio show with me and Fitzy. I think that Brian Callahan has not improved an area of the football team in a way that is discernible in 18 games as a head coach. But I don't have evidence that Brian Callahan has made one single part of this football program better. Now, there are things that, of course, I don't have access to. I'm not in their meetings. I'm sure that he is adept at scheming offense. I'm sure that he is adept at what it is to play the quarterback position. These are things that were known about him coming in. But the unknown is still him as a head coach, and the fact that it's unknown after 18 games, where if anywhere, he's capable of single-handedly improving his football team, or at least actively not being a detriment to it, right? That's a concern. It's a genuine concern. I brought up the situation in the preseason with Lucas at some point. It was either today or yesterday. And I remember talking in the preseason about the 4th and 2 play in Tampa, the first preseason game of the year. Well, let me, before I get into this, let me remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Simon Says, one of our great new partners, well, our newest great new partner around here on the Primetime Show, SimonSaysNashville.com. But you can't shop online. You can only shop in the store in Wedgwood, Houston. And when you go visit them, I promise you, you are going to be blown away. They're an innovative new clothing spot for men in Nashville, in Wedgwood, Houston, just steps away from Soho House and the Standard Assembly Building. They are awesome in what they provide. Their pieces are unique. You won't see the same things on their shelves each time you go in, because that is going to be a unique look to you. International menswear is what they have on offer. So many different cool Nashville local artisans. If that is something that you would like to support, SimonSaysNashville.com is where you go for more information. Again, you can't shop online. You can only shop in the store. But I have a couple of their shirts actually in my closet right now. Maybe I'll wear one to the next Primetime program. Maybe I'll wear one tomorrow night on Primetime so you guys can see what they're working with. SimonSaysNashville.com for more information. And they will put you in they'll put you in a better mindset. You look good, feel good, play good, pay good. That's how it works. And SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. You got the phone number right there in front of you, 615-979-7641. Again, Wedgwood, Houston, SimonSaysNashville.com for more information. So I was talking about like things about Brian Callahan that I'm keeping mental notes of. So last year's entire experience, mental note. Like I'm well aware of what Brian Callahan could or could not do. And I think that there is a situation where a lot of those things can inform the way that we talk about Brian Callahan this year. Okay. So then we go through the preseason, right? And the preseason, we have the 4th and 2 play with Brandon Allen, who throws it out of the back of the end zone. For those of you who remember, it's the first preseason game. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so it's very confusing. People pinned it on Brandon Allen without the context of understanding everything that happened in that specific situation. And it just looked like Brandon Allen didn't know what the hell he was doing. What on earth are you doing? Throwing it away on 4th and 2, you fool. So then we go into the press conference with Brian Callahan. And Brian Callahan informs us that on that 4th and 2 play, that Brandon Allen's coach to player communication, the headset in his helmet, goes out. So they're having trouble communicating the play. So Brandon Allen has to take time to go to the sideline, get the play personally from the coach, and go back out there. Brian Callahan also says in that sequence that he's called a play that he, quote, did not love. Okay. Well, that's on its face a weird thing to say. And I'm sure you don't love every single play, and preseason is not, the stakes aren't the highest, but like, it's a weird thing to say out loud, right? I called a play that I didn't love. All right. So you've got the coach and the quarterback having trouble communicating with one another because the headset's going on. You got a play call that you don't love, but you got a timeout that you didn't call. Why didn't you call that timeout? Why didn't you take a step back, reset the board as the head coach, recognize in real time, or could somebody have informed you, hey, take a timeout here. Let's just catch our breath. Let's just catch our breath and figure this stuff out. Because that's a lot. Like, that's fair. If his helmet headset isn't working, or if his helmet mic isn't working, and you're scrambling around trying to get him to play, but it's not a play that you love, okay, timeout. Call timeout. Shouldn't be that hard. Somebody from above should be able to point that out for you. You should be able to recognize that in real time. But if you don't, okay, you should have support behind you. Call the timeout. And he didn't call the timeout. And it's a preseason game. And it's the first preseason game. And people, I think people shrugged their shoulders and said, yeah, whatever, Brandon Allen. But like those moments, to me, at least to me, maybe you guys don't feel this way, but like mental note. all right, it's a preseason, but that's a very specific in-game type of situation that can happen. How did you handle it? Didn't handle it well. I don't know if that's how it's going to go all year long, or if that's going to be a struggle for him generally. If it is, he's not going to last very long as a head coach. But like those are the kind of things that I'm using to inform my opinion or the way that I talk about Brian Callahan. Because he doesn't seem to be he's calling the offense. So he is going to be taken out of the overall game experience because he's calling the offense. But he also doesn't seem to have the right people in place to support him when he is focused on one thing and their job is to focus on the rest. That can't happen to a team like this who had an opportunity to win on the road in Denver and lost by one score because you didn't have your shit together. That's tough. That's really tough. All right. So from that to reasons for optimism. Reasons for optimism. If you are optimistic about the Titans, what is your biggest reason for optimism? And in fact, we're going to get to a stock up, stock down type of situation, a rising and falling type of situation here in just a second. Right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. True Math there to go above and beyond for you. True Math Fitness is conveniently located downtown Nashville in the Gulch. Going to be there on Friday. Looking forward to it. Little Arm Farm Friday with Worth Campbell and the boys. Also a diehard Titans fan, Worth Campbell. He was in Denver. So if you want to go in and work out with Worth and express your solidarity, your sorrow together as fellow Titans fans, TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free. All right. So what is your biggest reason for optimism? Or rather, whose stock rose, whose stock fell, I guess is the question that we're asking you at this point. Rising and falling. Whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? I think a cautious stock up. Obviously, stock down Brian Callahan. Stock up Cam Ward. Cautious stock up about Femi Oladeja, who I thought didn't light the box score up by any stretch of the imagination, but was pretty damn good. Let me say this. Let me not lower the bar so much to say that was pretty damn good. Was solid and more impactful than expected on Sunday as a developmental second round pick. This is Brian Callahan earlier today.
Was designed to help try to keep Bo in the pocket. There was a cage rush mentality, so you could see the rush was balanced well. I think the things that we talked about over the offseason, I think we saw he only got out of the pocket really once for any significant yards, which was part of the plan there. We got good pressure. We kept them in the well as best we could. So that game plan, I think, was executed well. And this one's a little bit different style. Matthew's a pocket player. He can move in the pocket as good as anybody, but his game comes from playing right there. So we're going to have to do a good job of pushing the middle of it and condensing the pocket on the outside and get some more pressure on the quarterback that way.
I think Femi was right out of the gate.
Solid. This is a solid start for him. He set some violent edges for us. He was physical in the run game. He did what we asked him to do as far as the rush goes in terms of trying to crush and collapse the pocket. And he's still working on his rush moves and counter moves and all those things. He's kind of getting better every week. So it was a good start for him.
How does this Rams front compare stylistically to what you guys saw?
All right, so that is Brian Callahan talking about the pass rush efforts against the Rams, which will obviously be different than Bo Nix, and DK, who he said solid, really solid. And I think solid is fine. Like for a guy who was playing off-ball linebacker this time last year, who is now learning the ups and downs of playing on the edge, and I thought did a good job. Now, it doesn't mean that he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There's plenty of things that he has to improve upon. He was second on the team in pressures, but that is a less impressive thing to say when you realize that second on the team in pressures means two pressures. Two quarterback pressures for Femi Oladejo made him second, which is a concern, just generally about your pass rush. Jeff Simmons led the team with 7, and he had the game's only sack of Bo Nix. But I think that's as good an articulation as to how far away you are from having a real pass rush beyond Jeff. Femi was second on the team with 2 pressures. And that's, hurries, hits, all of it. He had 1 hurry, 1 hit. Jeff, again, had 7, including the sack. So you count on Jeff Simmons, but the rest of it is suspect at this point in time. And will continue to be until they get a little more horsepower up front. But we understood that they weren't going to be able to, like, those are the kind of things I'm willing to grant them understanding on, because they couldn't fix everything in one offseason. What I'm not prepared to give them grace on is coaching errors. Like, that's garbage. You got to do better than that. Couple of excuse me, sorry, keep getting choked up tonight for some reason. A couple of different comments here. Stock up on DK, stock down Ridley. Yeah, Calvin spoke in the locker room today. And I don't know what else he's really supposed to say. He was short about it, but he was accountable. And he knows he has to do better than that. And, he had drops at the start of last season, and then he ironed it out pretty well in 2024. Obviously not to the level of team success that they're looking for, but like, he knows nobody feels worse about that situation than Calvin Ridley. Like that, I have no doubt. So, while I don't think it's wrong to be critical of him, obviously he needs to do better. I think that Calvin, when challenged, usually responds that way. Stock up Sweat, who hadn't done shit for a month and a half, dealing with the tonsillectomy and the abdominal injury, came in there and blew up a couple of plays, looked solid, especially at elevation. They asked him to do a lot, and he responded. Stock up DK. There was a couple of different situations that you feel good about. Stock down Dan Moore. Really bad outing for Dan Moore. And maybe, Nick Bonito will make a lot of tackles look that way, I guess. But Brian Callahan's quote today on that was not ideal to me. Let me pull it up because I don't have the video handy for you, but I'm sure that I have something to the effect of what he had to say today, because I'm pretty sure Tehran tweeted the quote specifically. This is bad. This is not ideal. Okay, here it is. Brian Callahan, I think we could have played better up front, talking about the offensive line. That team last year, was talking about the Broncos, was the number 1 pass rush in football. They were going to be a challenge. We couldn't help everybody all the time. There's going to be some one-on-ones. We did a good job in some and not as good a job in other points. He's facing, talking about Dan Moore, he's facing, I think, the 2nd or 3rd leading sacker in the league last year, really talented speed rusher, Nick Bonito. He won some matchups for sure. When you play one-on-one against guys like that, they win some too. This is the part that I had a problem with. Talking about Bonito. He got paid a whole lot of money to do what he did. So I think that's the give and take, which immediately my response is, you didn't pay Dan Moore a lot of money? Come in here and hold down your blind side? Like, we're just going to chalk it up to, oh, Nick Bonito got paid, so he's supposed to do that. Dan Moore got paid, and he's supposed to do better than that. So I didn't love that part of the quote. Like, I think the rest of the quote's fine. I think the rest of the quote's valid. But don't turn around and say he got paid a whole lot of money to do what he did. Dan Moore got paid a whole lot of money to do what he did on Sunday, and that is not acceptable. Not acceptable. Anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow. Nate Washington on the show. We'll look forward to having Nate be a part of the festivities. We'll also have Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel. Robert, well, I don't know if Robert and Lucas are going to Knoxville. Have you figured out where they're going to Knoxville or not? You know what your deal is? You're going to have to kiss one of the listeners on the mouth to get these tickets.
I'll kiss anybody on the mouth to get them tickets. Who do I got to kiss? Did you figure it out yet?
No, I have my tickets. I don't know about
my ticket. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're going to the game and you're going to have a big old time taking all your Instagram pictures. There's only one reason I want to be there, and that's to tailgate with Slay, drink at Cool Beans, and see how many beers we can shotgun before I end up. Last time we were in Knoxville, I had to shit so bad, and there was no Porta-John anywhere. Lucas was like, oh, there's a Porta-John like 2 parking lots over. I'm like, dude, I'm got to shit now. So I pulled in behind this little church that he says they use as like a speech language pathologist building or something. I don't know. And I got behind a bush and I shit right there behind the fence and had to use a bag underneath the leaves as my dookie wipe to get me to the porta potty. That's what I'm trying to be on Saturday. So I don't need a ticket.
Listen to me.
Yes.
You are not riding in my car. If you use the restroom anywhere other than an actual bathroom, I carry toilet paper in my car, so this never happens to me.
Oh, so you can. I'll show on the side of the road. It doesn't matter to me.
I would never. But if I ever had a situation like that, like I have toilet paper in my car. Don't be disgusting.
Oh my God, Dixie Inn. I love that. Hey, I'm Smokey back here taking a shit. Hey, I gotta watch Friday again. That's great. What is that? Friday after next?
I think it's after next. I don't think it's the original.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, we're about to be going down to Knoxville. I'll be there. I don't need a ticket. I'll be in the park.
How are you getting there? Are you still riding with me?
Is Lucas riding with you?
Probably.
Okay, then yeah, I'd ride with you. I sleep with you. We got a hotel, one big bed. I sleep with you.
All right. That's enough of this for one night. Thank God. That's going to do
All
it for us.
Bye.
Radio show tomorrow. Come hang out on 104.5 The Zone, 10 a.m. We will see you there.